Welcome to another edition of From the Press Box. I am Rob Leonard. Joining me, of course, is my brother, an All-American sports writer, an award-winning sports writer, too. You're now an All-American, brother.
Thank you, brother.
You know, of course, his name is Tim Leonard, of course.
All-American out of Hofstra University.
Hey, man, you know, if that's what it takes, you know, get a little recognition from Hofstra, you know.
Good to know.
Anyway, we're here every Monday, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., part of the WHPC Sports Talk family, which is us 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. on Monday, then Monday through Friday, Sports Talk, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m., and then an additional Sports Talk 2-hour extravaganza on Tuesdays from 10 p.m. to midnight. Anyway, brother, let's start off with, it's funny because it happened, I thought, more quietly than I would expect, but at the same time, there was so much news about Steve Cohen now being the official owner of the New York Mets. So I mean, it's you know, part of it was all the process, and we had to wait. The process was, the couple of things. First of all, as of last week, anytime the New York Post can try to destroy Bill de Blasio, they will.
Of course.
And they really started this thing about, well, de Blasio has the right to cancel it. Well,
he did.
Sort of, yes.
He actually did.
He did what he did.
How awesome would it have been if Bill de Blasio would have said, you know what, I can't let this go on. The city of New York is saying no.
Yeah,
how awesome would that? You know what would have happened? Immediately, A-Rod right. And J-Lo would have been on the phone, and the 10 minutes after de Blasio said that, I said, Bill, we got to talk.
And also, Jerry Reinsdorf was not a fan of Steve Cohen, and he's also he was in the J-Lo A-Rod category. He knows Alex, so
he's a weasel anyway.
Yeah, I know, but there was stories that he was trying to stop it. Of course, it didn't. What was it, 23 to 7?
26 to 4 was the official vote of Major League owners, which means that the Mets had a vote as well. I'm assuming the Mets voted yes.
I would assume that the Wilpon said yes.
So, but you know, I don't, you know, the whole point to this was that Cohen had to be approved by, he already had been approved by the MLB ownership committee, but right. he needed at least 23 of the 30 clubs to sign off on the deal for it to be approved. So, the vote was 26 to 4, clearly very comfortable. I would be curious to know who the 4 teams were who voted no and why.
Good point.
But like we were saying before, I mean, it's you joke that de Blasio could have been the guy to stop the sale, but there was a clause in the Citi Field in the Citi Field lease that says that New York City has the right to review the proposed transfer of the lease of Citi Field. So. And there's a provision in the city's lease agreement that says the new owner of the team cannot be someone who has been convicted of a felony or is an organized crime figure. Now Cohen's former company, it was called SAC Capital Partners, pleaded guilty in an insider trading case in 2014 and paid, get this, brother, paid $1.8 billion with a B in fines. But it says Cohen was not charged in the case. Now, it was his company, so the fact that he wasn't charged specifically is a little dicey there. This was a significant matter in this sale.
Well, it reminds me of Charles Wang. He was computer associates with the Islanders and was it Sanjay Kumar? And then wasn't it Sanjay who got in trouble and somehow Charles Wang didn't get in trouble? Correct. They had some SEC violation thing going on or something to do with some act. But Charles Wang,
they're always getting in the way with their regulations and demanding stuff be legal.
Yeah, so it reminds me of that a little bit. We should say, first of all, that the reason that Mayor de Blasio had a say of anything is that technically where the Mets built Citi Field is parkland. I guess would be Flushing Meadow Park. So, that's why they still have some say. And I assume that when the Yankees ever get sold, that technically you would have the same thing. I'm not saying they are. I'm just saying if they ever did, that you would have the same situation because Yankee Stadium is on parkland. The new Yankee Stadium is on parkland. So that might be not that will be a problem because what did Steve Cohen do? He made sure he made the right donations. As exactly, you take care of the politicians.
Few political donations will get Mayor de Blasio to say, my friend, how are you?
Yeah, he donated $17.5 million to the New York City Economic Development Corporation. Yeah, it's called a payoff in other places.
Well, yeah, but it says that the city will make grants to area small businesses. So the money will go to good use in theory. And you know the media will be paying attention to where that money goes.
Right, and de Blasio only has less than a year until he's out. So that's a good thing.
Which I know a lot of people are happy about. But Cohen also did several other good things besides his $17.5 million.
No, you know what? He came in the right way. He came in the right way. You know what he said? He said, we're going to take care of everyone who's been affected by COVID and who works around here. Give the details because I think it's, for him, he's a billionaire. Yeah, okay. But you know what? You stay a billionaire because you keep your money. And he's got
a lot of billions, brother. A lot of billions. I know, but he is taking care of some people. It's nice to spread a little bit around. To just, to be Charlie Potatoes, as my old roommate used to say. So that's a good thing.
Charlie Potatoes?
I don't know. Whatever. It was his saying. But, this guy is worth $14 billion.
Right.
So for him to spread around a few million, even if it's $100 million, it's chump change for him. All right, that's $100 million is chump change. How weird does that sound? All right, but what Cohen did, he restored the salaries of Mets employees, and we're talking about unionized groundkeepers, security guards, engineers. They will all get their pre-pandemic salaries back as of yesterday. So that reverses salary cuts that were anywhere from 5% to 30% that started back in March. So that was about $7 million. And I'm going, all of these numbers are from ESPN.com. So thank them for that. But he's also starting a seasonal relief fund that started yesterday and will run through opening day for approximately 1,000 Citi Field employees of subcontractors, which basically those are like vendors and people like that. That makes them each eligible for $500 monthly stipend, and that's another $2.5 million. So that's almost $10 million right off the bat. That, let's face it, previous ownership didn't want to pay. That's why those cuts were made. Because those guys were, they were looking to save a buck anywhere they could. This guy has the money.
To be honest, though, brother, you can't knock the Wilpons for, they did it wasn't technically the wrong thing to do because, there's nothing happening, and if nothing's happening, and you're paying people to do nothing, I can understand where the Wilpons came in on that. Obviously, it looks better to pay them off and just. Say, hey, you're part of the family, and we're going to watch out for our family.
Exactly, but, and a major league owner should have the kind of money that where you're not nicking nickels and dimes from hot dog vendors, so that you can claim, we got to keep a roof. We got bills to pay. You know what? Those people they're the ones that got bills to pay. They got rent to pay. Wilpons aren't. They're not going to be living in a Volkswagen anytime soon. These people who make game days happen. These are the people who need this money, and this is where these stimulus bills as well, and other things that our government sadly is neglecting at this point. This is money that people need desperately. So good for Steve Cohen for saying, look, all right, everybody needs some cash. I got plenty of cash. That's not a problem. Cash is not an issue. Like I said, $14 billion. So think about it. If he took what 7% of his net wealth, or is $1 billion, so he could take 7% and just spread it around, and that would be $1 billion, and it wouldn't hurt him in the least. So
yeah, well, you never know, brother.
But look, what did he do? He gave De Blasio $17.5 million to make the city fall in line. Good for that. Then he takes another $9.5 million to help Citi Field employees and the people that make his team function. Now it's his team function on a daily basis. So that's good. I'm happy about that. And here's the other thing. And this one gave me a bit of a chuckle, brother. Steve Cohen put it out there on Twitter. And if this doesn't make you sign up for Twitter, brother, I don't know what will, unless like Paul McCartney has a contest to give away a signed base or something like that. Steve Cohen reached out to Met fans on Twitter and said, I'm looking for suggestions. What can we do to make your Mets fan experience better? He's already received 5,000 responses.
It's not just players. I don't think it's just players because. Well,
no, I'm talking anything. Somebody. I know
that.
But one of the things that I thought was great. Somebody said, "Bring back Old Timers Day." Steve Cohen's response.
Definitely.
Steve Cohen's response. That's a no-brainer.
Oh yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you. That's good job. Because that's what you want. You want history with your club, and for whatever reason, the Wilpons seem to turn their back on the history of the club. I don't know why. You need to embrace the history of your club, and I hate to say it, brother, but like the New York Yankees do. Obviously, the Yankees have the best history in the sport, but you have to embrace your history.
But the
Mets have good recent history.
Part of the history, though, brother, is when you show it, you recognize it and remember it. And with the Mets, they really haven't embraced their past history. Now, they haven't had the history of the Yankees, but think about it. 2006, they made the playoffs. 2015, they went to the World Series. 2016, they were in the playoffs.
I'm nodding my head emphatically, brother.
1999 and 2000, they were in the playoffs.
Exactly.
They had one of the greatest catchers ever with Mike Piazza played for him. That 99 team was one of the best teams I remember, even not as much as like the 86 team, which was a different team, but the 99 team was really, that infield was fantastic.
Absolutely.
People forget about that. So to embrace old timers game or legends game or whatever you want to call it is a given. I would hope that when you walk into Citi Field, you don't first see Dodger stuff. New York.
That was Wilpon. That was Wilpon.
Right.
That was his influence.
And I don't mind seeing New York Giants and Brooklyn Dodger stuff. I think that's important to certain people, and it's also the history of New York baseball. But when your team that you own is the third on that list of history and how you remember it and keep it, to me, there was always something wrong with that. It's like when the first year or second year Citi Field was open, Doc Gooden was there, and he was in some like restaurant or something. Not a restaurant, but he was getting like hot dogs, and he ended up signing the wall. Someone with a Sharpie. And what they do, they came and erased it because it's our new building, but it's Doc Gooden's autograph.
You should have turned it into like a wall of fame or something.
Exactly. They should have brought people over. Okay, here, John Olerud or whoever comes back to the stadium, here, sign this wall and maybe do something with it.
You know who did that? Who does that, brother? I'll give you a little insight, a little behind the scenes.
Ooh, what's this?
Sirius XM.
They do.
They have an entire hallway that is loaded with autographs from musicians, sports people. It's like everybody has signed that wall. You name it. If they've been to Sirius, they've signed the wall, and it's enormous. I'm talking like probably 20, 30 feet at least, if not more, of autographs.
That's great.
From floor to ceiling.
That's the way it should be. That's the way it should be. There's nothing wrong with putting graffiti that's good graffiti. That would be the way to look at it.
People like seeing that. Then they can look and see, they can see which signature is who. And, unfortunately, today's athletes love to sign their names, so you can't read them. So
it's like a squibble. Yeah. We should say, brother, I don't think we mentioned this.
What's that?
The Mets went between $2.4 and $2.5 billion.
Well, that's the valuation now. Steve Cohen bought. Let's just for factual purposes. Steve Cohen has purchased 95% of the team.
Right.
So the Wilpons, your boys, the Wilpons and Saul Katz, have retained a 5% stake in the club. Now, I want people to know. All right, before people say, "Oh, 5%, that's so cute," or "That's nothing," or "Oh, what are they going to do? 5%." Now, a 5% stake at the $2.5 billion valuation is worth $125 million.
Sure.
It's not just a little tiny, it's so cute, 5%. That's $125 million.
Right, and it's done for tax purposes, brother. If they sold the whole team, then they would have to pay the entire amount in taxes. The rate's bigger. By keeping ownership, even if it's a small bit, the tax rate is much cheaper on what they made. So that's part of it. No, but that's very important, Timmy. That's very important. It's like when Timmy, when George Steinbrenner died, he died in the last year where transferring the team or whatever to your family was a different tax rate. If he had died the next year, there would have been a good chance the Steinbrenner family would have had to sold the Yankees because of the tax rate.
Well, it would have either that or would have cost them a lot more.
Right. So
this is something you care about. This is something you care. This is not something sports fans care about.
No, but they do care about it because if their team can't afford to get free agents like the Wilpons for the last 7 years, then guess what? They have a bad team. So
that has nothing to do with taxes.
And it has everything to do with taxes. No, I'm just saying, brother. That's the way that this is. Part of baseball and all sports is a business, and if you think it's you're in your little rotisserie thing. Oh, I got my rotisserie, the Schwammies. Oh, the Schwammies.
What are you talking about?
That's sometimes all you care about.
Stop with the stupid tangents that have nothing to do with anything.
Stupid tangent.
Yes,
part
it is.
Of the way it's part of.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. It's part of the whole overall thing of how sports is.
Be quiet.
No. I'm not being quiet. You be quiet.
Right. So anyway, Cohen, like I said, he's on Twitter. He's taking suggestions from fans. Be sure if you reach out to Steve Cohen on Twitter that you get the right Steve Cohen.
There's many of them, I'm sure.
The Mets owner is at Steve A. Cohen 2 because there already is a Steve A. Cohen who is a professor at Columbia who obviously signed up for Twitter before the new Mets owner did. So make sure that you're not harassing the guy from Columbia University who has nothing to do with the Mets.
That's like Tim Leonard. Tim Leonard is the real Tim Leonard on Twitter, not to be confused with the phony Tim Leonard.
Just real Tim Leonard, not the real Tim Leonard.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let's
get it straight.
Yeah, but look at that.
You got people tweeting somebody else.
There could be another Tim Leonard out there, the real estate agent in Colorado.
The judge in Oklahoma.
And who won't give up his website to you.
That's true.
Yeah,
I don't like him. I mean, he's the only Tim Leonard I don't like.
There's a Rob Leonard brother.
There you go.
I don't know if you know about that. There's a Rob Leonard.
I know. He makes long points on radio shows.
No, that's me. That's the Smiling Rob Leonard. That's my Twitter handle, Smiling Rob Leonard.
Yeah, all right. So that's good. Make that up, Smiling Rob Leonard. I want to see that on Twitter later today.
Yeah. But there's a Rob Leonard who started Sha Na Na.
Yeah, Bowser.
So, no. Bowser wasn't in the original band.
Oh, well, all right.
Rob Leonard from Merrick, who now works at Hofstra University, brother.
There you go. We're everywhere. Leonards are everywhere.
He started Sha Na Na, and I was getting different phone calls from people over the years asking if I could sign their Woodstock albums, and Sha Na Na is on it.
Should have said yes.
No, I'm not that Rob Leonard. But I don't know if I told you this, Tim. I did interview him a couple of years ago, and he brought up Dad's name.
That's very good.
Dad. He had Dad.
You told me this.
Well,
let's talk about this after the show. We got a sports show to do, brother.
Yeah, but we can take tangents. You want to know why, Tim? Because sports. Don't give me. Thank God we're not a video. Because sports talk isn't even sports talk anymore. It's other talk. Guess who's coming to another station, brother? who's not even going to be talking sports. But anyway, that's a whole other thing. You know, you can go off on tangents occasionally, brother. You can. You know, we both have beards, by the way. Anyway,
are we done?
No, because part of the deal is not including SNY. The Wilpons are still going to have ownership in that, and eventually they'll either sell it off, or, and this is something interesting because it could involve, and this is just speculation. You know, Mr. Cohen can start his own channel after the contract's up. And guess who would be a great person to start a channel with?
Rob
MSG, and well, besides me, MSG Networks, owned by or controlled by the Dolan family. So,
wow, all of that is a few years away, brother. So we'll discuss that when it happens.
But SNY is just like the Yes Network is a huge amount of money for the team. So
the closer it gets to the SNY contract ending, if I'm the Wilpons, I'm selling that as quickly as possible because the longer you wait, the lower the price gets.
Right, and you know,
Steve Cohen's got plenty of money to start his own network if he wants to, and the Wilpons will get nothing for it.
It's like when Steinbrenner decided to end the MSG contract, and he said, "I'm starting my own channel," and that's one of the reasons the Yankees are so, you know,
Yes Network,
so
one of the best networks on cable.
Well, sure, of course. Who doesn't want to watch, you know, John Sterling all the time?
The David Wells perfect game.
And how many times do they show that? Anyway, brother. So what do you think the Mets? Now, let me ask you a question. What do you think the Mets should be doing now that Steve Cohen has got the checkbook out? He's going to be wanting to make a splash just because it'd be a great publicity, and if he does the right splash, you know, like the equivalent of getting Mike Piazza, not the equivalent of getting George Foster. You know, this
George
could really
Foster
help.
Wasn't bad for the Mets. He wasn't great, but he wasn't bad. He wasn't Jason Bay.
The problem with George Foster was he was there to hit homers, and he stopped hitting homers.
Well, because he started getting old. That's what happens when you sign old home run hitters.
Well, yeah, but he also was on the 82 Mets. Wasn't as bad as the 79 Mets, but it was right up there. So
Jason Bay is one of the worst free agent signings in Met history. He's far worse than George Foster ever was.
Okay, well,
Jason Bay came to the Mets and completely forgot how to hit. Never mind hit home runs. He forgot how to hit.
George Foster will appreciate that.
Yeah.
So who do you think the Mets needs? What do you need? You need a couple of pitchers at least.
Yeah, I mean the Mets. Let's face it. The Mets right now they're a flawed team. They really are, and I know Met fans hate it when I talk like that, but we got facts here, and the facts are this. Jacob deGrom is the only reliable starter on the roster as currently constructed. All right. Noah Syndergaard should come back. He had surgery. You know, he had Tommy John surgery. He should come back and he should be back to throwing 100. But how much can you rely on him? And he's got 1 year left before he becomes a free agent. So you can't trade him because he's untradeable at this point because you don't know. You have to see how he recovers from the surgery and what kind of level he's on after that. Steven Matz at this point, to me, is unproven and is not necessarily a major league pitcher. And I don't know why, because the guy is incredibly talented and has the kind of stuff that should make him not only a major league starter, but like a number 2 in a rotation. But his ERA this past season was a disaster. So, yes, the Mets need at least 2 pitchers, at least 2 starters.
Right.
Will one of them be Marcus Stroman, who at this point is going down as one of the worst trades in Met history? Because the Mets gave up a couple of very good prospects to the Toronto Blue Jays and got basically, 15 starts out of Marcus Stroman? If that, I don't even think it was that many. So, you know, Stroman opted out of this past season because of COVID concerns. The Mets actually did give him a qualifying offer, which they had to do before yesterday. Because, and this is the other thing, brother. Free agency started in Major League Baseball yesterday.
Right.
So it's not like the NBA or the NHL or the NFL or to a lesser extent the NHL. Nobody signed yesterday. Nobody even knew Major League Baseball free agency started yesterday. It just happens. It's like, oh yeah, oh, no day on the calendar, no big deal. We'll get to it when we get to it. In the NFL, it's oh my God, we got to sign people. In the NBA, it's the same thing. It's panic, it's chaos. Oh my God, we got to get his name on a contract. Hurry up. He's going to be gone. And then like you're like the Knicks and you wind up with Julius Randle. But this is how it is with baseball. Nobody's in a hurry. It's nothing. The day when free agency starts does not set off a chain of events. And baseball really needs to do something about that because the winter.
Why?
The winter is just too long. If you want your league to have eyes on it, to have people paying attention, then that needs to be one of your days that free agency. And it can't just happen like random days in January. Oh, here, January 9th. Here's a free agent, a big free agent signing. Whoever, George Springer is going to sign January 22nd. All right, well, so what? It becomes like the contracts wind up taking a day or two or whatever. It's like there's a story the day before. Springer has they've reached an agreement, and then there's a press conference. But it's just so random. It happens. Oh, here's one. Here's like a week, 5 days later. Here's another. 10 days later. It's just there's no rhyme or reason to it.
But Timmy, at the same time, spring training doesn't start until February. We're talking 3 months. So why does it happen that with the NBA and the NFL that if you don't sign players that first day, you're not getting them? That I don't know. I mean, with the NBA, I would think it's because there's limited amounts of jobs open, and I think
it's the same with baseball. I mean, you're talking the NBA. It's a 12 or 13 man roster. With the NFL, it's a 53 man roster.
Yeah,
so baseball's in the middle of that.
Right, but the NFL has different rules about salaries and how they pay out, and they walk away from contracts a lot easier than the other leagues do. So. I think
I sometimes wish baseball could do that because we'll get to that. We'll get to why in a minute.
Yeah, well, that's what I think. I mean, the NHL is different because they have the juniors and and free agency, isn't the same for whatever reason. Then again, you don't have teams like the Islanders, even the Oilers in their prime anymore because everyone, people leave. John Tavares goes back and goes back to the pajamas and hangs out with the Maple Leafs,
Well, as is his right.
Yeah, it is his right. I agree. He has the right to play wherever he wants. That's the beauty of the free agency.
All right. Anyway, brother, the contract, the qualifying offer that the Mets made to Marcus Stroman is 1 year for $18.9 million. And that goes for all. There were 6 players who received qualifying offers yesterday.
Right.
But so if Stroman accepts that, then the Mets have him for a year. Now, he'd be a nice piece. I don't know what he's looking for in free agency because I personally think he's just a pretty good pitcher. But could he wind up with a 5-year, $100 million offer? I guess maybe. But when Zach Wheeler became a free agent, I didn't think he was going to get $20 million a year, and then the Phillies wound up giving him 24 or something, whatever it was, crazy. Marcus Stroman, I'm not. His value is something I am having a lot of trouble figuring out. Let's put it that way. But Trevor Bauer for the Mets he's another guy who received the qualifying offer. But he and George Springer of the Astros, center fielder, to me, those are the Mets' top 2 targets. And the good thing from the Mets standpoint about going after both of those guys in the same free agent class is that both of them received qualifying offers, so both of them would require draft compensation if the Mets signed them. But right. If you have to give away a first-round pick for one player, then if you sign somebody else from a qualifying offer, then all you can give up is a second-round pick, as opposed to signing players in consecutive years, and then you have to give away a first-round pick each year. You see what I'm saying?
I do.
So then, if you're going to sign one guy for a qualifying offer, you might as well sign 2 or 3. because the draft compensation winds up being less. You're going to have 1 year where you're not, your draft class is probably going to be garbage because you're not going to have your first pick until the third or fourth round, but it's worth it. So Trevor Bauer, to me, is a guy that the Mets desperately need to sign. Now, I'm curious to see with him because he's a bit of a flake. He had claimed earlier in his career that he was only going to sign 1 year contracts as a way to maximize his earning potential in baseball.
Right.
I know that John Harper, formerly of the Daily News and now who writes for SNY, suggested the Mets sign Bauer to a 1 year, $40 million deal in this offseason. I don't know if I don't think it'll take that much now with COVID, but Bauer more than likely is going to get at least $30 million. He had a Cy Young caliber season in the pandemic. He is one of the elite starters in baseball. But like I said, you do have to put up with him being an abrasive personality. He is somebody who likes to stir the pot on social media. He is somebody who calls out Major League Baseball and especially Commissioner Rob Manfred on a regular basis for some of the things that he sees as being unjustified in baseball. But again, the pitching talent is there. And if you had Trevor Bauer with a healthy Noah Syndergaard and Jacob deGrom, that's a top three that's really difficult for any team in Major League Baseball to match. And that would go a long way to getting the Mets back in a playoff hunt and back into being one of the better teams in baseball and a legitimate contender in a division where you have already the Atlanta Braves, who are going to be a juggernaut for several more years because they have so much young talent on the roster.
Right, Tim. By the way, turn your face more towards the microphone. You're going off mic a little. I'm
directly facing it, bro.
Okay.
You can see my face.
Okay.
I'm
that's
pointing
better.
at the microphone.
You were turning away a little bit.
Wow.
Yes. Anyway, I just want to say that you're listening to 90.3 WHPC, the voice of Nassau Community College. This is from the press box here every Monday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., part of the WHPC Sports Talk family. My name is Rob Leonard. Joining me, of course, is my brother Tim Leonard, who always agrees with everything I say because he knows I'm right, as older brothers are always right compared to the younger brothers who don't seem to learn from their older brothers.
My funny brother.
I am the funniest in the family.
No, I didn't say funniest. I said funny.
I am the funniest in the family. Right. Myself, then Suzanne, our sister, then you.
Not even close.
So,
anyway, brother, just a little bit more Met news here. Relief pitcher Dellin Betances, formerly of the Yankees, now of the Mets, has elected to accept a $6 million player option that will have him be back with the Mets in 2021. He could have chosen a $3 million buyout instead, but to become a free agent. But he decided to take the $6 million. Betances had a 7.71 ERA in 15 appearances for the Mets last season after coming back from a partial Achilles tear.
Right.
Also, your boy Brad Brock will also return. He accepted a $2.075 million player option. So, the Mets bullpen is pretty much set for next year.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that.
I'm kidding. But,
that's sarcasm.
The Mets bullpen needs a little help.
I know.
But these guys are back because they had the player option, and that was their.
Well, that's right. Their option, and I would stay with the Mets too. And I think we still have to figure out what the season's going to be like next year.
We don't know. Nobody knows.
No one knows yet, and hopefully after tomorrow we'll get a better president who cares about COVID, and maybe things will start working out.
Let's put it this way, brother. Spring training starts in late February.
Right.
Can you see anything being normal by late February?
I don't know.
Here we are. It's November 2nd. So November, December, January, and here's February. So it's 3.5 months or so spring training.
Well,
I don't see it being back to normal in 3.5 months. So
who knows? Who knows? I don't know. I think
Florida still refuses to close anything or do anything, or they just want to infect as many people as possible. That's something
that Florida should got to think about, because maybe all the teams don't go down to Florida to do their spring training.
Well, but the problem is in February, where are you going to work out? You can't work out in New York in February unless you play indoors, and you can't really do baseball workouts indoors. It doesn't work.
No, but I mean, there's ways of doing it. I mean, maybe you go to. Actually, I don't know.
No, to have that many teams at the same time, it would be pretty much impossible to not occupy spaces in Arizona and Florida and maybe Texas, but it would be very difficult. Let's put it that way.
Palm Springs.
Yeah, well,
it's nice and hot there.
There you go. That'll work. But get everybody. Yeah, Palm Springs. Yeah,
well. Anyway, let's quickly talk about the Yankees, brother. They're also in the. They have a free agency happening too. Do you expect the Steinbrenners to spend? Well, I shouldn't say Steinbrenners anymore. Hank isn't around anymore. I keep forgetting that. But
it's the family.
But it's the family. But
it's Hal. It's Hal's
Jennifer.
Kids. It's Hal's cousins. It's everybody. If your last name is Steinbrenner, you're part of the Yankee family.
I guess. Yeah.
So whenever it is that Hal goes, some other Steinbrenner will inherit the team. So, it's Steinbrenners.
But say we miss Hank.
Speaking, I don't. I don't wish him dead, but I don't miss him because he wasn't a part of anything. He was like a mouthpiece for a month and a half, and then they realized, hey, this guy's a buffoon, and we need to get him out of there because he's embarrassing the franchise.
That's why I loved him.
Yeah, but that's why people love Trump. I mean, it's not a good thing.
Yeah, well, do you love the?
If you were a Yankee fan, you wouldn't love Hank because Hank was embarrassed.
If you were a Met fan, you didn't love the Wilpons. So
exactly, I didn't love the Wilpons either. I thought they were idiots. They embarrassed the franchise and they embarrassed New York. I don't like anybody who does that. Why do you think I'm not a Jet fan and I'm not a Knicks fan? Because those franchises embarrass the city I love. Anyway, bro, we're getting off topic again.
There's nothing wrong with getting off topic, brother.
The Yankees, speaking of qualifying offers, the Yankees have made one to DJ LeMahieu. DJ, what an incredible signing by Brian Cashman 2 years ago. 2 years, $24 million. The guy is an MVP candidate for sure this year. He was an MVP candidate last year as well. He for what they paid him, just one of the biggest bargains in baseball over the last 2 years. Right. The Yankees are certainly going to do everything they can to re-sign him. It's probably going to take at least a 4-year deal for about $80 million, and he's going to be worth every penny. But the Yankees made him a qualifying offer, so that's, again, 1 year, $18.9 million. They did not make a qualifying offer to Masahiro Tanaka, who I expect they will try to re-sign, but at something less than an $18.9 million valuation. But we'll see what happens with Tanaka. The Yankees also exercised their club option to reliever Zach Britton. Now, the strange thing about this option was the Yankees had to pick up the options for 2021 and 2022 at the same time. So Britton just got 2 more years, which is it's a rare concept for a contract, but he's getting 2 more years at $27 million. And the Yankees also declined 2021 options for outfielder Brett Gardner and for pitcher Jay Happ. Basically, we're in a situation with Gardy where if he comes back, it'll be as a 4th outfielder. His option was, if I remember correctly, his option was for $10 million. I like to think that they'll want him to try to get him back at about $5 million, maybe $6 million. He also gets a $2 million buyout, so whatever they decide to pay him is added to that. But I'm thinking $4 to $5 million. He's going to be a 4th outfielder. Clint Frazier is the Yankees' new left fielder, and that scares me a little bit because I still don't think Clint Frazier is a very good defensive outfielder, even though I have no clue how, but he was nominated for a Gold Glove a couple of weeks ago. But he hasn't played a lot of left field. He's played more right field when Aaron Judge has been hurt. But the Yankees outfield for next year undoubtedly will be Frazier in left, Aaron Hicks in center, and Aaron Judge in right, obviously assuming good health. But Gardy would be a 4th outfielder, and he won't be starting anymore. He's the only guy left from the 2009 World Series championship team. And he obviously he's a great presence in the clubhouse, but results wise, the 2020 season was not kind to Brett Gardner. So we'll have to see where that goes and what he decides to do. I don't think he'll retire, but I also wouldn't be surprised if he wound up somewhere else.
Well, I think you need a fourth outfielder first of all, especially with Aaron Judge
they're not
being hurt all the time.
To find. Yeah,
but
they're not difficult to find.
But if you have a guy who's a good clubhouse guy who has a history with the team,
right? And that's worth something. That's
definitely worth something. So you would think the Yankees, okay, this guy, we just need him because he's a good clubhouse guy. Yeah, he can be our fourth outfielder, and considering the history of Aaron Judge and injuries, he might be the third outfielder.
And also you have to consider the injury situation with Giancarlo Stanton, who basically is not even an outfielder anymore. I mean, it's almost fortunate for Stanton that he wound up getting traded to the American League, because with all the injuries he's had over the last couple of years, where would he be playing if he was with the Marlins right now? He'd have to be an outfielder, or he'd have to switch to first base, one or the other.
Right.
But
no, you're right.
I don't think there would have been any way he would have been able to finish that contract in the National League. But that's the other news from the Yankees from this week is Stanton could have opted out of his mammoth contract on Sunday, but decided not to and will live out the final 7 years. And this is what I was talking about before when I said that maybe teams should have an opt-out option as well, because this is the contract that Stanton agreed to 6 years ago, $325 million over 13 years. Stanton turns 31 on Sunday. He is due to be paid $29 million in each of the next 2 seasons.
Wow.
And then $32 million a year from 2023 to 2025. Then it drops back down to $29 million in 2026, and then $25 million in 2027. The deal includes a $25 million club option for 2028. I can tell you right now, there's no way, no chance in hell that gets picked up. But it also has a $10 million buyout. So Giancarlo Stanton is going to be making an average of close to $30 million a year for the next 7 years. And let's face it, he's barely played over the last 2 seasons because of numerous injuries. Now, that being said, I don't want to just sit here and trash Giancarlo Stanton, because he's still, when healthy, one of the best offensive players in the game. And he showed us that in the playoffs when he batted .308 and smacked 6 home runs and drove in 13 runs. And then there was a stretch of games where he was the only Yankee who was hitting. So this is a guy who the Yankees desperately need to figure out how to keep healthy and how to keep his legs from getting hurt and how to keep him from getting, various pulls and strains and whatever else. I mean, he needs to be healthy. And if he can stay healthy, he's 40 home runs and 110 RBIs waiting to happen. And if he does that, then all of a sudden that $29 million or $32 million is going to seem like a bargain, because he's just going to be mashing in the middle of the lineup. And that's the Giancarlo Stanton that the Yankees want to see, and that's the guy they traded for. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. But obviously he's a Yankee to stay unless they can unload some of that contract maybe in about 4 or 5 years and pay down some of it. But he's a staple. He's here to stay. There aren't teams that are going to be paying for $30 million a year for him.
No, he'd probably have to change the contract or something.
Well, the Yankees would just have to kick in a ton of money. If they traded him, it would take, you'd have to trade Giancarlo Stanton plus $50 million or something just to try to.
I wonder if Stanton hadn't been injured so much in the last couple of years, would have he done that buyout the way A-Rod did and actually got more money when he did?
Yeah, the Yankees bidding against themselves.
Right.
That was probably Hankin-boost, actually.
So
no, I mean, if he would have been at, you have to remember, brother, when before Stanton became, a free agent, or before he signed the contract, I guess I should say, in 2017, he hit 59 home runs and drove in 132 runs with the Marlins. I mean, that's otherworldly. So that's why he got that contract. And at the time, that contract seemed insane. Now we have Mike Trout making $100 million more than that over 12 or 13 years. And Mookie Betts just got a contract that was bigger than what Stanton signed. So now, I mean, I don't want to say it's a bargain, but again, if Mike Stanton is healthy or Giancarlo Stanton is healthy, then it's a bargain.
Well, I think eventually the owners are going to have to sit down with the players and say, we can't do these long-term contracts anymore.
Why not?
Maybe, 3-year deals at a time or something.
No, that won't happen. That will never happen because
because
if you're an owner, if you're the owner of the Angels, of course you want to lock up Mike Trout for as long as you can.
Right, but there's no guarantee
he's not only the face of your franchise; he's the face of baseball.
Yeah, but there's no guarantee Mike Trout, won't hurt himself and be gone
the
for
risk.
a year. Well,
that's the risk.
I know these guys. I know the owners take out life insurance policies or insurance policies on all their players. So they, like David Wright, the Mets got 75% of his salary as part of the insurance agreement. So, that's part of the deal, I guess. And I guess,
but you also have to remember, brother, that teams go into these long-term contracts knowing that the last couple of years are just sunk money.
Robinson Cano.
Robinson Cano is exactly one of the points. I mean, although Cano didn't have such a bad season this season, so he's still capable of being productive. But I'm thinking more like Albert Pujols, who has been just okay. He certainly hasn't been worth the money that he's making over the last 3 or 4 years, given the fact that he's got crippling foot injuries, and he's just not a 40-something home run guy anymore. So the Cardinals actually made the right move letting him go because the contract was so long and it was so ridiculous. You sign a 10-year contract like that with Albert Pujols, and the last 3 years are just you're not gonna get the value. But the first 7 or 6 or 7 years or whatever, that's what you're getting. So, and the other years are required to bring the player to you. So that's the same thing with Stanton. That's why the Marlins signed him. They wanted him to be the face of the franchise for 13 years.
Well, maybe you give more in the beginning of the contract and take.
That's what they did. That's what they did. Like I said, it's $29 million the next 2 seasons, then $32 million for 2023, 24, and 25, and then it drops back down. So this contract had some foresight to it. It wasn't a lot of contracts. The numbers just keep going up and up and up. And then you're paying the most money for the least production. At least this one had reality put into it, where it's like, okay, well, you know what? By the time you're 37 or 38 or whatever the age is, we're not going to pay you $40 million. We'll pay you 25, and we'll give you a little more up front, and then we'll start to taper it off. That's smart. That's smart from both sides.
Right.
But obviously, $25 million is still a lot of money.
Quickly, brother, we're starting to run out of time. What other major league teams are looking to get better through free agency?
Everybody, but come on, bro. That's like everybody. Everybody needs to get better.
But not everyone's going to pick up on it,
Well, I mean, it's hard to say right now because, with the whole COVID thing, nobody knows spending. I don't expect any big free agents to be signed anytime in the next, before the end of the year. Let's put it that way. I mean, there's still 2 months to go in a year. I don't see anybody signing because nobody knows what's going to happen for next season. We still don't know if there are going to be fans in the stands. If teams aren't going to commit to long-term contracts. Although that being said, you can get bargains. And I don't know what players are going to want to sign. Like if Steve Cohen goes to George Springer and says, "Look, I want to lock you up 5 years for $125 million." Would he do it? I don't know. Would that be somewhat undervalued for him? Yeah, it would be. But could you if you could lock up 5 years for lottery money, why not do it? So there might be some bargains to be had from owners who are willing to spend some money. And I don't know how many owners are willing to spend some money right now. Like would the San Diego Padres be willing to spend money? They've invested a lot in their team over the last few years. The Manny Machado contract, the Eric Hosmer contract. The Padres, pitching is a little bit of an issue for them, but they have a lot of good top minor league talent coming through. So I don't know if they would be willing to add another decent sized contract, but the Padres are a team that's close. So that could be something. I mean, I like to think with Padres, they probably would want to invest in their bullpen. Who knows with the Phillies? The Phillies keep spending money, but they're not getting a return on their investment. They spent big on Bryce Harper, then they spent big on Zach Wheeler, and what were they, 29-31? I mean, were they even a 500 team this past season? So they need to get smarter as opposed to just flashing the checkbook.
No, I agree.
And the Yankees are in that group too. I mean, even though the Yankees next year they'll have Cole, they will have Severino will come back from his surgery. Domingo Germán comes back from the suspension. I'm expecting Davy Garcia to be in the rotation, even though he's going to be 21, 22 years old. But he showed himself well enough that he should be in the starting rotation. So I'm expecting, will the Yankees maybe try to sign Trevor Bauer? I don't know. Or will they try to bring back Tanaka? So the Yankees rotation probably needs one more person, one more arm. I would like it to be a left-hander, but I don't see any decent left-handed starters out there. So will they make that trade? And then the other thing is, if the Yankees do sign DJ LeMahieu, there's been a lot of noise about them trying to trade for Francisco Lindor from the Indians. Now, if you make that trade and acquire that level of player, it's going to come with another long-term contract. You're going to have to sign Lindor to a 6 or 7 year deal for at least $150 million. I'm talking more for the 6 year deal than the 7, but it's probably more like $200 million actually. So that's another big contract on the books, and then that impacts all of that stuff. Impacts your decisions down the road. You have to remember Aaron Judge is going to be due a contract in a couple of years. At this point, I think the Yankees are going to move on from Gary Sanchez at some point. I don't know when, but I think it's going to happen. But I don't want the Yankees to sign JT Realmuto because it would just be too much money for a position they don't really desperately need somebody like that. So I'd rather spend that money elsewhere. But just look at the teams that are close to being contenders. And I'll tell you what would be another curious team. The team that I'm curious to see what they do this offseason is the Red Sox, because they were god awful this season. And as much as I enjoyed them being god awful,
of course
they have the money to spend. And are they going to be willing to spend some to get back to pennant contention? Because they were terrible this season, and their rotation is god awful. And it's going to take a lot of money for them to get back to respectability. So we'll see where what the Red Sox are willing to spend, and are they willing to spend what's necessary to become contenders again, or are they going to let this thing drag out and call it a rebuild and try to fool their fans?
Well, like we said, it depends when the season starts. If it starts in June, that maybe they don't go after what they're supposed to.
If it's another abbreviated season like it was this year, I could see some teams just saying, you know what, not a whole lot of people are paying attention, and it's something that we can get away with for another year, and maybe let a couple of prospects develop, and kind of go all in, or go back to going all in when we have fans in the stands again, and they can help us pay for this stuff. But again, we'll see who's serious about winning and who isn't. That's the benchmark. If you're serious about winning, you'll sign what you need to sign to try to win a title.
That's true, brother. Now let's quickly. Let's say if you took the Jets in 21 points yesterday, you lost. To quote the great Warner Wolf.
I told people last week, bro.
Yeah, you told
people last week. I said give the points. Bet. I said, you know what? I tell you what. If people took my advice last week, they can pay for college now. Bet big, bet the Chiefs. That's what I said.
Yeah, it just was a really, brother, was an embarrassing game. Not just
you know what? I'm going to disagree with you right there.
No, man, it was an embarrassing game.
I'll tell you what. The Jets. It was a lot like a couple weeks ago with what was it, Miami, where good first half. Good first half. Stayed with the Chiefs. At one point, late in the first half, it was 14-9. I didn't have a problem with that. When you have the Kansas City Chiefs, and as powerful as their offense is, this game could have been a lot worse. And 35-9, I was expecting more, something along the lines of 45-6. So 35-9, it's but again, we're dealing with a level that the Jets have created, and it's such a low level that you tend to find positives if the performance wasn't completely deplorable.
The thing gets me is Darnold had 18 completions, and it was for 150 yards or something?
133 yards.
133 yards. So
ridiculous. Yeah, everything was checkdowns.
Yeah, and if you're in this situation where nothing is working the way you want it to, wouldn't you try something else? Wouldn't you go long on every play or do some trick plays, just something to wake up this team?
Trick plays, maybe.
Just something different, because it's just like, another small pass, another crappy pass. Oh, okay, but 3 and out.
That's because the Jets line is not good, so they can't protect Darnold for as long as they would need to for him to throw a long pass. I mean, yesterday they completed one pass that was longer than 15 yards. It's not acceptable, but that's where we are. That's where we are with the Jets. Like I keep saying, Sam Darnold is a talented quarterback who is surrounded by not many real NFL players. The Jets line is terrible. They had one good receiver yesterday, the Denzel Mims kid, who only caught 2 passes for 42 yards. They need better players, a lot of them on offense. I would love to see them draft at least 5 or 6 offensive players in the top of this coming draft. But they need a lot of help. And yesterday, the Chiefs basically were in cruise control in the second half. They didn't.
Yeah, but know what? They shouldn't Mahomes came out much earlier.
Probably, but he threw for 400 and change, 400.
It seems like they were just trying to make sure they beat the spread. It was like, if there was no spread, that he would have came out earlier.
Probably, so but it was 416 yards and 5 touchdowns for Patrick Mahomes yesterday.
Fantastic.
That's pretty much what I was expecting.
Okay, we should say the Giants play tonight. I'm sure they're going to lose
Monday. And, who did the scheduling here? It's
I don't think they knew.
As Charles Barkley would say.
And who's for? And then Thursday is the Giants again, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know.
Whatever. Anyway,
take your word for it.
We have one more minute, brother. Harry Kane, Tottenham.
Harry Kane, my guy, Harry Kane, penalty kick, and Gareth Bale, brother, got his first goal since coming back from Tottenham on a header. The Spurs beat Brighton yesterday 2-1 and vaulted into second place in the Premier League. So that's a good thing. Your boys NYCFC defeated Red Bulls yesterday 5-2 at Yankee Stadium. And another game, Arsenal beat Manchester United on a penalty kick in the Premier League, which is a little bit of a shocker.
Wow,
that's been going on. And also, brother, just to mention with the Giants, Saquon Barkley finally had his ACL surgery on Friday. It was 40 days after he got hurt because they had to wait for the swelling to go down. So now it's time to rehab for Saquon. He's got a ways to go.
Well, good luck to Saquon. Anyway, brother, that just about does our show, or is the end of our show. My name is Rob Leonard, host or one of the co-hosts from the Press Box. Of course, the other co-host is my brother Tim. Tim, you're on Twitter at what?
At Real Tim Leonard.
And I will be Smiling Rob Leonard on Twitter soon, I guess. Maybe
First follow, Steve A. Cohen, too.
Yeah. Anyway, coming up next at 10 o'clock, we have The Good Gold Show with Big Ed. We'll see you on Spreaker. And thank you, Sean Novak, for keeping this on the air. Take care and bye-bye.